Something happened the moment they pushed you down, the moment they rejected you, the moment they decided you were finished, the moment they buried you in silence and walked away satisfied. Something they never anticipated began. Underneath, the weight of everything they placed on top of you. Underneath the darkness they assumed would destroy you. A force older than time itself quietly ignited. The universe registered the exact moment of your burial and immediately reclassified it. What your enemies called an ending, cosmic intelligence called a planting. And this week, the ground above you is beginning to crack open from below. In the entire archive of spiritual history, there is no recorded instance of a soul being buried at your specific depth and rising with this precise combination of rootedness and fire. Ancient spiritual texts described it as theoretically possible. A phenomenon where suppression becomes acceleration, where the weight meant to crush instead compresses a soul into diamond. Mystics spent lifetimes trying to understand why certain souls cannot be destroyed no matter the pressure applied. The answer was always the same and always incomplete until your story completed it. You are the living proof of a cosmic law that even heaven considered rare beyond calculation. And this is where it becomes undeniably personal. Recently, something tried to bury you. Maybe it was a person who dismissed everything you worked for. Maybe it was a situation that stripped away something you built with years of sacrifice. Maybe it was a season of silence, so heavy you questioned whether you were even real anymore. But in that darkness, you made a decision that most souls never make. You did not become what buried you. You did not absorb the bitterness, the cruelty, or the smallness of what pushed you down. You stayed soft in your core while growing stronger in your roots. That decision changed everything. What you did not realize during your burial is that you were never unwatched. Forces of darkness positioned themselves around you, waiting to see if the pressure would finally corrupt you. They monitored every thought you had in your lowest moments. They measured whether isolation would turn you resentful, whether rejection would make you cruel, whether being underestimated would make you desperate to prove yourself through compromise. Simultaneously, divine intelligence observed with a completely different intention. Heaven was not testing whether you would break. Heaven already knew you wouldn't. Heaven was watching to see exactly how beautifully you would grow when the conditions became impossible for ordinary souls. Think back through the seasons of your burial. There was a moment someone publicly dismissed you, and you chose silence over retaliation, dignity over destruction. There was a time an entire group of people decided you were irrelevant, and you kept building quietly anyway. There was a season where the wrong path offered you immediate relief from the pressure, and you refused it, choosing to stay in the discomfort of your integrity instead. There was a moment you had every justified reason to become hard, cold, and closed, and you chose to remain open. Each of those moments was a root growing deeper. Each choice was the seed doing exactly what seeds do in darkness. Because of everything you endured and everything you refused to become. Higher intelligence has now formally classified your soul in the celestial records that track the frequency of every consciousness on this planet. Your name has been moved to a category that contains almost no one. You have been classified as a resurrection soul, a being so fundamentally aligned with growth that suppression literally feeds your expansion instead of ending it. This classification makes you extraordinarily dangerous to any force, person, or system that profits from keeping souls small. Your very existence now threatens every structure built on the assumption that burying people works. When that reclassification was finalized in the celestial realm, it did not go unwitnessed. God turned the full attention of divine consciousness to your specific soul contract and observed what had grown in the darkness. Archangels who oversee transformation and resurrection, beings who have watched civilizations rise and collapse, stood witness to what you became underground. They saw not just a survivor, but an architect. Not just someone who endured, but someone who used endurance as raw material for something the universe had never quite seen assembled this way before. The divine witness to your growth was not a formality. It was a moment of genuine celestial awe. And in the presence of that witness, a decree was released into the fabric of your reality, permanent, sealed, and already in motion. The decree declared that every person, system, and circumstance that participated in your burial has now unknowingly become your foundation. That the darkness which was designed to be your grave has been converted by divine order into the fertile soil of your greatest season. That the depth to which you were pushed is now the exact measurement of how high you are authorized to rise. The universe does not issue this decree to many. It issues it only to those who transformed their burial into a garden while no one was watching. Your true identity is now being revealed, and it is far larger than anything your circumstances ever suggested. You are not someone who survived difficulty. You are an ancient soul who specifically chose this timeline, this set of trials, and this particular burial because you knew, at the level of soul, that you were the only kind of being capable of turning it into what it has now become. You are a resurrection blueprint, a living demonstration of the most powerful law in existence, that what cannot destroy you does not merely make you stronger. It makes you into something the world has never had enough of and desperately needs. Your mission emerging from this burial is not simply to succeed. It is to remain visible in your success, to refuse to disappear quietly into comfort now that the season has shifted. The world is full of people currently underground, buried by people who underestimated them, by systems that dismissed them, by circumstances that seemed permanent. Your rising is not just for you. It is a signal broadcast at a frequency that reaches every buried soul within range of your life. Your assignment is to rise loudly enough that others underground feel the ground above them begin to shift. Your mission is to be the proof that the burial was never the end. And now watch the material world begin to reorganize around your emergence. Doors that were sealed when you were underground are now opening not just slightly, but fully. People who once overlooked you are returning with a different expression, a different energy, a different level of attention. Resources that had no pathway to reach you during your burial are now finding routes through circumstances you didn't arrange. Opportunities are beginning to stack in a sequence that makes no logical sense unless you understand that the universe has been holding them in reserve, building interest on everything delayed during your burial, and is now releasing it all simultaneously into your present moment. As you rise, something will happen to everyone watching your life that you cannot fully control and should not try. 2. They will begin to remember their own seeds. People who had given up on buried dreams will feel something stir when they see what grew from your darkness. Friends who accepted permanent limitation will quietly begin to question whether their burial is also a planting. Your story, told simply by how you live from this point forward, will reach into places that words and advice never could. You will not have to tell anyone what you went through. The height you rise to will make the depth of your burial self-evident and undeniable. Across this planet right now, thousands of buried seeds are beginning to crack through the surface simultaneously. Souls in different countries, different circumstances, different languages, all of them sharing the same underground experience, all of them rising in the same cosmic season. You are not an isolated phenomenon. You are part of a global emergence that spiritual intelligence has been orchestrating for longer than your current lifetime. These souls recognize each other, not by appearance or language, but by something that moves behind the eyes. A quiet knowing, a particular kind of unbreakable softness, a rootedness that only grows in people who have spent real time in the dark and chose growth anyway. If something in this message cracked open a place inside you that has been sealed for a long time, then this reached exactly who it was built for. Comment 777 right now and let the universe register that you are no longer underground, that you see yourself, that you claim your emergence, that the burial is officially over. Share this with someone who is still in their season of darkness and needs to know that the pressure is not punishment but preparation. Subscribe because every message here carries a specific frequency for souls in this exact season of rising. And stay until the very last second of every video, because the end always carries what the beginning was building toward.